Welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here. Let's step right into our virtual clinic today to address a really heavy burden that so many of us carry around: overthinking and mental paralysis. Have you ever found yourself just staring at a mountain of work, analyzing literally every single possible outcome until you feel completely emotionally exhausted before you've even taken a single step? Well, today, we're putting on our mental health professional hats to tackle exactly why you get stuck in your own head, and more importantly, how to break out of it.
We see this specific patient profile in practice all the time. It goes a little something like this. You replay conversations over and over. You imagine the absolute worst case scenarios. You think so much about taking action that you never actually move. It's a state where endless analysis leads to pure emotional exhaustion before a single physical step is even taken. It just leaves you completely unmotivated, stuck, and totally drained.
Okay, so here's our treatment plan for today. First, diagnosing mental paralysis. Second, the trap of perfectionism. Third, the 5-minute brain reset. Fourth, daily habits for momentum. And finally, the power of genuine rest.
Let's start with Section 1, diagnosing mental paralysis.
First things first, we need to perform a differential diagnosis on your lack of action. Understanding the root cause of your mental paralysis is the absolute crucial first step to getting unstuck. You might be really quick to label yourself as lazy, but before we go any further, ask yourself, is your overthinking just a temporary habit, or is it an early sign of emotional burnout? Look inward for a second. Sometimes a racing mind that leaves you unable to start a task is actually an early warning sign from your body that it's just completely overwhelmed. To put that into perspective, think of everyday laziness as just a simple lack of motivation. But genuine burnout? That looks entirely different. That is a historically high-achieving, super motivated person who is suddenly paralyzed by total apathy. If you fall into that latter category, that is emotional burnout. It's a symptom of mental exhaustion and absolutely not a character flaw. Recognizing that difference is incredibly validating.
Moving on to Section 2, the trap of perfectionism.
Overthinking is so often mistaken for intelligence or thoroughness, right? But if we pull back the curtain, it's secretly fueled by fear, anxiety, and chronic perfectionism. We trap ourselves in these endless loops of self-doubt because we falsely believe that overanalyzing prepares us for every outcome. In reality, we need to recognize that this cycle just drains our mental clarity and leaves us totally exhausted.
And let's be honest, a massive contributor to this perfectionism is the environment we live in. We exist in a hyper-competitive society that's intensely focused on success and wealth. This creates a really deep, intense internal guilt whenever we spend time not being perfectly productive. So when you overthink and inevitably fail to take action, you just end up beating yourself up over your lack of progress, which adds even more weight to an already heavy mental load.
So here is the key takeaway. To stop this cycle, you literally have to stop the guilt. Letting go of this guilt is a mandatory step in your recovery process. You simply cannot heal from burnout while simultaneously punishing yourself for it. Overworking your brain to the point of exhaustion inevitably causes serious adverse effects on your mental health. You really have to give yourself some grace here.
Section 3, the 5-minute brain reset.
Enter the magic number 5. The 5-minute brain reset rule is a brilliant psychological trick. When a massive project is staring you down and making you want to run for the hills, this is your immediate intervention tool. Here's how it works. You basically have to trick your brain. Tell yourself you will only commit to working on the task for 5 straight minutes. That's it. By breaking a daunting task down into this tiny, highly manageable window, you completely bypass the anxiety that causes the overthinking in the first place. You lower the stakes so much that you trick your brain into actually starting. And the science-backed strategy behind this rule is so simple but so effective. Once you cross that initial 5-minute threshold, something magical happens. You build immediate momentum. That simple act of starting is very often enough to finally quiet your racing mind, silence the overthinking, and allow you to just keep going. You effortlessly transition from endlessly thinking to finally doing.
Next up, Section 4, daily habits for momentum.
If that mental paralysis creeps back in, we need a daily maintenance plan to combat the self-doubt. First, make structured to-do lists to externalize those racing thoughts. Getting things out of your head and onto paper makes a massive workload feel so much more manageable. Actively brainstorm ideas, intentionally giving yourself permission for them to be messy and imperfect. Look for outside inspiration, or even just throw on a motivational talk. These things can shift your mindset and short-circuit that inner perfectionist.
And finally, section 5, the power of genuine rest. Sometimes no amount of productivity hacks will work because your tank is just completely empty. Let's look at a super relatable case study we see all the time, the person caught in the half-working trap. This is someone who is totally exhausted, deeply burnt out, but absolutely refuses to stop. And the result? They spend their time half-working, making zero actual progress, while simultaneously agonizing and stressing out over the things they aren't getting done. It is literally the worst of both worlds. If your overthinking is stemming from sheer exhaustion, the absolute best remedy is to give yourself permission to truly disconnect. And I mean genuinely disconnect, without the guilt. If you are drained, the best trick is simply to rest. Step away from the desk, close the laptop, give it a break. Because that genuine rest is the only thing that allows you to recover from chronic stress. You literally need to let your nervous system reset so you can come back to your projects when you are actually equipped and genuinely ready to take action. True productivity absolutely requires periods of true recovery. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to reflect on. Are you going to try the 5-minute rule today to break through that perfectionism? Or do you need to finally give yourself permission to truly rest and heal? What is the single most compassionate step you can take for your mental health right now? Make your choice today. Thank you so much for joining me in the clinic, and as always, keep learning.